So let's check. Richard, you all set to go?
I am ready, my friend.
Awesome. Then let's get started. And what I want to say in terms of the webinar is, firstly, please keep chatting. Feel free to ask some questions. I'm going to have some time at the end. We don't have much time with Richard, but I'm going to have some time to ask him a couple questions. So if you have questions, type it in the chat. I take note of it, and I'll moderate it for Richard. Also, I want to remind everybody that the webinar is recorded as we speak. So that's really awesome. You can actually pause this, play this as you need live. You can join us back live. You can do whatever you want in that respect. So it's pretty cool in that respect. These webinars that we do are really dedicated to Royal LePage's promise to you as a realtor. And that's going to help you maximize your earning potential by providing you with powerful business tools, access to leads and referrals, and training for all stages of your career that builds your skills and fills your sales pipeline. And for those of you who have tuned in to the Richard Robbins International webinars that we've done in the past, you have seen the quality of webinar. And I'm really, really excited to have such a great group. I have about 114 people right now live with us, which is awesome. We had, interestingly, as I mentioned, it's October 31st, 666 people, or 666 people registered. It's an evil number there. So really, really happy to have so many people who have registered, who have tuned in, and of course, share that so that you guys can get this webinar, because I know Richard Robbins always. I'm always excited when RRI is our webinar. When Richard is the guy delivering the webinar, because he always gives so much great insight. I always end up with a full page of notes myself. So that's what we're all about. And I do want to remind you, they are available in RLP Network. You'll see under training, webinar training. You can watch previous ones. So if you missed the ones that we did previously on how to be more productive, I think that was the last one we did. I can't remember what the last one we did was, Richard, but if you want to check those out, you can check those out. With that said, I want to turn things over to Richard Robbins. Now, Richard Robbins International, you can see here, a global sales business coaching organization. He's all over the world helping realtors from all walks. And I love that experience that he brings and that insight, which is absolutely fascinating. And I really, really recommend everybody here, go check him out on Facebook. You'll see facebook.com/official Richard Robbins. You can find them there. Not only does he do really great videos and shows you what you should be doing to help, educate your clients, then he shows you, hey, here's how you do it. He's got great content on their Facebook page. I love seeing it. I end up liking it a lot. And without further ado, I want to turn things over to Richard.
Michael, thank you so much. Always great to be here with you and everybody from Royal LePage. For all of the people that are watching, thanks for tuning in today. Obviously, great to have you all with us. So I've been touring a lot this fall, and I created a talk called the Real Estate Trifecta. And it's really the three areas that I think we need to master in what I call very changing times. So what I'd like to do as I get started, I want to spend some time with you. I want to talk about some of the changes that are taking place. I'm going to go over what I call unavoidable trends. And then I want to move into the trifecta. And these are three areas. Now, I'm going to be showing you a lot of really cool visuals. And these visuals, I'm going to suggest you create. You can create them exactly like mine if you want. I'm good with that. So feel free to copy the visuals. The numbers probably won't work, based on your marketplace, because I'm in Toronto right now, and I'm going to talk more about the Toronto market. But it's not about the Toronto market. It's about understanding what's going on in your market. And I want you to use the numbers I'm going to share with you for your own marketplace. So I'm sort of presenting you with an example. But a lot of people say, well, boy, these are really great graphics. Can we use them? 100%. I'm not in the real estate sales business. I'm in the business of working with you, helping you become more productive. We're in the coaching and training business. So please feel free to take some of this and use it any way you like. So the first thing I want to talk about, I think we got what I call three unavoidable trends that are taking place in real estate today. And the first, we've had a lot of government intervention. So if you look at the real estate industry, when I say government intervention, in January, we had stress testing on conventional mortgages. We had stress testing on unconventional mortgages before that. We've also had, I think, 5 interest rate hikes in probably the last 18 months. And I would suggest we're probably going to have more in 2019. So, we're seeing rates rising a little bit. Not only that, the Competition Bureau has challenged the Toronto Real Estate Board. The Toronto Real Estate Board lost. And this will have an effect right across Canada with all of the real estate boards. And you're now going to see sold data is going to be published. Now, this has been going on in Nova Scotia for quite a while, but it's going to go across the rest of Canada. And there's many other things. If you look at Vancouver as an example, you've got a 20% foreign buyer tax. You've got a vacancy tax. I think it's 0.5% next year and goes up from there. In Toronto, you've got a 15% foreign buyer tax. Plus, we had the 16-point plan went in place in April of 2017. So all across Canada, we're all experiencing change. And a lot of it, honestly, is due to the government. But then the second unavoidable trend that I'm seeing is I'm seeing increased competition. Now, let me explain what I mean. And I'm sure, Mike would agree with this. We're seeing a lot of alternative business models out there on a regular basis. We're seeing teams growing. Teams have grown by about 50% over the last 5 years. So we're seeing more teams than ever before, which wasn't as prevalent, but is becoming more and more prevalent in our industry. We're seeing tremendous downward pressure on commission, to be honest. We're seeing right now that the consumer, in a lot of cases, they're going, well, it doesn't matter who I list with, I just got to get my home on MLS. And that sort of leads to number three. And number three is what I call educated and confident consumers. Now, this is a really interesting one because, again, if I go back and I started selling real estate in 1985, I was 24 years old. And when I started selling in 1985, the power we had as agents, what it was information. It was the good old MLS books. And I'm sure there's some people watching today that probably still remember those great MLS books. Well, of course, with the internet, right, which I still think is a fad. I think the internet will eventually disappear. Just kidding you, but that's what everybody said when it first came out. What's happening now, we're living in a very transparent society, and it's completely changed. It's completely changed our relationship with the consumer. So what's happening now is a consumer can go online and they can, find out what's for sale. To the point, in some cases, they don't even want to deal with one agent when they're buying. They just think themselves, what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go out. I'm going to go online. I'm going to find properties. I'm going to drive by them. If I like something, I'll call the listing agent, because if I deal with the listing agent, I'm probably going to get a better deal on commission. Now, we all know that in BC, that's a little more difficult now than ever before because of the new rules and laws that have taken place out there. But they're thinking that way, right? They're going, what's the value of an agent? And of course, then you look at the seller and they get access to all this information. The seller goes, oh, it doesn't matter who I list with, just got to get my home on MLS, my house is going to sell. So with that being the case, and now with the sold data being released, now, and I know a lot of people aren't a fan of that. I happen to be a fan of that because I think, if you look at it as a consumer today, if you're like me as a consumer, you want to be able to get access to all the information that you can so that you can sort of make decisions. And as an industry, if we try to hold back information, all we're going to do is allow other companies or other sites, if you will, to start opening up, and they're going to provide the consumer with what it is they want. Believe me, at the end of the day, the consumer gets what the consumer wants. So it's changed our positioning because now they're educated, they're confident. Now, when I say confident, I believe that consumers today have what I call false confidence. So in other words, they think they know everything that they need to make a decision, but they actually don't know everything to make a decision. And I'm going to show you exactly why that is true and how you overcome that. But the trends, we need to understand what it is we're dealing with. This is just our new reality, everybody, whether we like it or not. This is the deal that we're dealing with right now. The government is getting very involved. Think about the government. They're trying to control inflation. So that's why rates are going up. They're trying to control prices in, say, British Columbia, especially Vancouver, Southern Ontario, especially Toronto. You look at it and you say, well, we do have alternative business models right now. With the release of sold data, Zillow is now making an effort to move into Canada. And I think it's going to happen. I personally wish that real estate companies wouldn't be releasing all of their information and listings to Zillow, but there's been one national company that's already done that. There's been many people at a brokerage level. Actually, there's two national companies that have done that. There's been many brokerages that have started to do that. So we're starting to see that. And I'll tell you what you should do if you haven't already done this is go on Zillow and search a certain area in the US. Because obviously Zillow, believe it or not, Zillow sold agents leads last year and made $750 million from it. But here's what was really interesting. Zillow last year provided 150 million leads to real estate agents, but there's only 5 million transactions. And not all of the transactions were a Zillow lead. So just imagine, that means all of these leads are going out, but a bunch of them are no good, or there's, they're going out, the same leads going out to many, many people. So one of the areas of increased competition is companies coming in. And I just want you to understand this very clearly. So when you start to see the solutions, you'll recognize why maybe you need to consider what I'm talking about. Is that these internet lead generation companies, and Zillow is an example, and there's others obviously, that are coming to you and they're trying to get you to spend money with them to buy leads. Why? Because they have discovered in real estate where most agents are weakest. And most agents aren't weakest at, say, showing property. They're not weakest at getting a listing sold. They're weakest at generating leads. So these companies come along and say, well, we're going to generate the leads. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sell the leads back to the agent. And essentially, here's what they're doing, is they're trying to turn your past clients into somebody else's past clients. That's what they're trying to do. Because if you think about it, other than first-time buyers, everybody's a past client. And if they're a past client of an agent, then my question is, why wouldn't they be dealing with that agent again? And why wouldn't that agent be getting tons and tons and tons of referrals from this person? Because these companies come along and then they're trying to get your past clients to put their information onto a landing page, obviously their email address and hopefully more information, and then they turn that lead over to another real estate agent. Interesting, isn't it? If you really think about it, that's what's going on. So we have to counteract this. So our position has changed as an industry. And my belief is if you can master these three things, and I think, no matter what's going on in the market, you'll be able to make 2019 a little better than 2018, possibly, even as the market changes. So let me take you into the trifecta, and let's talk about this whole idea of this trifecta. So the three non-negotiables, keys to breakthrough results. So the first is this. The first is marketing. Now, I find it interesting because, if I go back, and again, I'm trying to help you see the evolution. When I go back and look at real estate, when I first started, it wasn't about marketing, it was about sales. I had to learn how to be a salesperson. In other words, I had to learn how to dial for dollars or prospect on the telephone. I had to learn how to be really good at door knocking. I had to be really good at, going to an open house, converting that lead into an appointment. That's what I was taught back in 1985. But what's interesting is we live in different times now. So is it as effective to prospect on the telephone today as it was in 1985? And the answer is no, because everybody's got call display. So what happens if my phone rings, I pick up my phone, I look at it, there's a phone number, maybe comes up, maybe no name, or if a name comes up, I don't recognize the name. What's the chances of me answering that phone? They're not very good. So what's happening is that most people will not answer the phone unless they know who you are. Now, is it good to be phoning back leads? 100%. Don't get me wrong here. Same thing with door knocking. Let's think about this for a moment. When I first started selling real estate, and my manager, Don Harriman, had me out door knocking, he wanted me to prospect on the telephone first thing in the morning and door knock in the afternoon, 9 to 12 on the telephone, 1 to 4 door knocking. I had no leads. So he said, if you got no leads, you might as well prospect all day. And that's how I started. When I used to go to the door, people used to be excited you showed up to the door. Like, it was really amazing, actually. I love door knocking because they'd come to the door, we'd have this great conversation. I had this whole script I went through. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't door knock. Don't take this the wrong way. But is door knocking today as effective? In other words, is everybody answering the door? No. Like what you see now when you go door knocking is you might see the curtain move. You ever seen that before, right? And then the curtain goes back to where it was, and then everybody's diving under the couch. Hide, hide, hide. It's a real estate agent, right? But they're not running to the door like they used to. So it's changed. So from a sales perspective, it's harder for us to reach out to people cold, which means what we got to figure out how to do is somehow, some way, we got to figure out how to get people to come to us. And that's marketing. So when I look at top agents today, most top agents today are really, really, really good marketers. That's the difference. They have figured out a way how to push out valuable content. whether it's through email, whether it's through social media, whatever form they're using, so that they're intriguing people, that people are requesting more information, or maybe asking a question, or ask them to clarify something, and basically generating a lead. However, we've got another challenge when it comes to marketing, because everybody today is trying to get your attention. So see, marketing today must be designed to cut through a very noisy and distracted world. So here's an example. April 30th of this year was my birthday. Actually, truth be told, April 30th of every year has been my birthday, but April 30th, yes, was my birthday this year. And I was 29. But anyway, when it was my birthday, I went on Facebook later in the afternoon, and literally, and it was very, very nice, but hundreds of people had said happy birthday to me. Now, what do you think the chances are? I went down and looked at all, few hundred people and recognized I didn't, right? Like, it's nice and everything, but a few hundred people. Like, I'm not going to go down but two people, they did a bomb video. They did a video, and they either text me or emailed me a video. Now, which one of the two got my attention? Everybody on Facebook or the video? The video got my attention. So when it comes to marketing, what we need to understand is we can't be doing what everybody else is doing. We've got to focus on what's going to cut through this noisy world and get people's attention, because attention is the new currency. And if you can't get somebody's attention, you can't sell them anything. So what I see people out there, and they're marketing, but the question is, they're not getting anybody's attention, because if they don't hear you, see you, read your stuff, or whatever the deal is, there's no sense doing it. You're just wasting your time. You're wasting your money. So I've been trying to figure out, how do we get people's attention? And remember, while you're out there every day selling real estate, my job is to figure out what will get people's attention. Is to figure out, what are top people doing? How are people producing results? And then I take that information and I share with my coaches, and we create training programs and all that sort of thing. So here's what I've discovered. The most effective way today to get people's attention is to share real estate intelligence. But not only when you share real estate intelligence, when you're sharing real estate intelligence, you're showing people you know more than them. So in other words, their false confidence, becomes no confidence. So now they go, boy, I didn't know that. Boy, I didn't know that. Boy, I didn't know that. Who becomes valuable? You become valuable. Now, here's what happened to me. Excuse me. I have a little drink here, by the way, just so you know, this is straight vodka. Yeah, that's what I do.
It's the only way we get you through this, Richard.
It's the only way we get me through, right? It's the only way I can get through any day. Okay. Anyway, so it's called real estate intelligence, but you look at it and you say the consumers think they know more than they do today, but they actually don't. So back in April of 2017, what happened? We had in Toronto this 16-point plan come in place. And basically the big one was the foreign buyer tax, which I know many people have heard about. So 15% foreign buyer tax. Buy a house, if you're a foreign buyer, you're going to pay 15 points up front. Well, I thought to myself, you want to know something? The market in Canada has been good for a very, very long time. I think the market's going to change. I think this is going to affect the market. Plus there was 15 other points, but this was a biggie. So what I started doing was, I thought, I'm going to create a video and I'm going to start doing these market updates. So what I did is I did a market update, and I'll show you in a minute some of the graphics I used. I did a market update in May for the month of April. And of course, sales were starting to slide off a little bit from April of last year, because the foreign buyer tax went in April 20th, and it tended to slow down after that. I think the first one I got 4,000 or 5,000 views. And then the second one I did in June, which was for the May numbers. And again, the market's starting to slide a little bit. I can't remember the number, but let's say I got 12,000 views. And then I did one in July for June, and I got over 70,000 views. 70,000 views. Now, that's interesting, because there's only about 50,000 real estate agents in the Toronto Real Estate Board, and I got over 70,000 views. Now, that's, again, at all of the platforms, right? That's YouTube and Facebook, and sending it out to our email database. The whole deal. That's everything all added up together. I thought to myself, that's really interesting. Well, if there's only 50,000 agents and I got over 70,000 views, then who's watching this? Who's watching it? Consumers. Then all of a sudden what started to happen is people started to ask me questions. Like, one guy said, I'm a Toronto policeman and I'm thinking of buying a house. Do you think this is a good time to buy? And I said, well, that's interesting, because now what's happening is consumers are reaching out to me and asking me real estate advice. So of course I responded, I'm not a licensed real estate agent. I actually coach and train real estate, reach out to a professional agent, that sort of thing. And I thought, what did I just generate? I generated a lead. because now this person was seeing valuable content that they could see that I had a level of intelligence about the real estate industry, and they wanted advice from me because they were thinking of purchasing their most valuable asset. So think about that whole process. See, when somebody's buying a house, they're buying the most valuable asset. They're selling a house, they're selling their most valuable asset. Why would they not want to get involved with an agent? Because they don't see the value of an agent. But the minute that they see you have a high level of intelligence because you're telling them something they possibly didn't know, they start to reach out to you because they do understand the importance of what it is they're doing. But the challenge is if they don't see your value, they won't reach out to you. So I hope everybody gets that. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at this first graphic. Now, this is one I created. This went out for the month of September. Now, again, this is the Toronto Real Estate Board. I do this for Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, as well as Toronto. You can do one for your market. I can get your numbers, okay? I just got to go to your local real estate board and I can get all of your numbers, even though I'm not a member of your board. So you can get these numbers. This is my example, but I'm going to recommend you create something like this for your market, wherever you happen to be. You know, it doesn't matter if you're in a small community, you can still do this. So if we look at sales and active listings on the Toronto Real Estate Board, September of 2017 to September of 2018, you notice that in 2018, we did 6,455 sales in the Toronto area. Year before, we did 6,335. That's up 1.9% year over year for the same month. But if you go down below active listings, you notice we had 20,000 active listings in 18. We only had 19,000 active listings in 2017, which means our listing inventory was up by 5.6%. Now, your price in your market is going to be determined on one thing, and it's called supply and demand. And what happens is if you have 4 to 6 months of inventory, you have what I call a balanced market. Anything below 6 months of inventory, you have more of a buyer's market. Anything above 6 months, you're going to have more, or I should say below, you're going to have more of a seller's market. Anything above 6 months, you're going to have a buyer's market. So on the right-hand side, you'll notice here what it says. In 2017, we had 3 months of inventory. Now, how do I get that number? Well, I go to the 19,000 listings and I divide the 6,335 sales into the 19,000 listings, and that shows me how many months of inventory I have. So you can see, even though we did more sales in September of 18 than 17, our sales were up by 1.9%. But our listings were up by 5.6%. So what happened to our months of inventory? Did it go up or did it go down? It went up. So the newspapers will brag about the market being better because sales were up, you know, in September year over year, but actually months of inventory was also up, which actually slightly weakens the marketplace. You see what I'm saying? This is real estate intelligence. Now, when you start to communicate this, and you can go on to, you know, Facebook and you can watch these videos that I've already done, and see exactly how I record them. But this is the type of content that when you're a listing presentation, work with a buyer, right? You know, you got to put into your listing presentation package or your buyer presentation package, or this is the type of stuff that you should be pushing out on social media, email, newsletters, that sort of thing, so that people can now start to see the stuff and they go, wow, that's really interesting. So if you go to the next one, and again, you can create this. It shows that we did 60,000 sales from January to the end of September in 2017. Actually, these numbers are wrong. Sorry, they should be reversed, okay? So basically, we did 60,000 sales in 2018, and we did 73,000 sales in 2017. So just reverse the numbers, okay? I got the numbers reversed. I apologize for that. And that means in 2018, our sales were down by 18%. Now, let's look at this realistically. If we did 73,000 sales January to the end of September in 17 and only 60,000 in 18, that means we are off by, for argument's sake, 13,000 sales. Now, if we were off by 13,000 sales, there's two ends to every sale. We were off by 26,000 units. So no matter how you cut it, your pie is smaller if the market you work in, right? Your pie is smaller. And there's 26,000 less ends that are available to a salesperson, which means if you want to grow your business, you've got to get a bigger piece of the pie because the pie is smaller. So you got to take a larger chunk of that pie to maintain, right, or increase your business. But this here is a cool graphic. You can't tell me this wouldn't be of interest to the public. They don't know these numbers. They don't have a clue. Let's look at the next one where we talk about historical sales. So here's another cool one that you all could create in your market. In 2008, we did 75,000 sales. You can see it went to 87, 86, 89, 85, 87, 93. So in 2014, in Toronto, the market started to take off. Then we went to 93,000, then 101, then up to 113. Foreign buyer tax went in 17, went down to 92. At the end of September, we'd done 60. And if you project out, we'll probably come in around 80 if the numbers sort of remain the same. So we did 80,000 sales. Well, that is more than we did in 2008, right? Slightly less than 2009, slightly less than 2010, right? You can go along and you can see how it is. So again, our pie is smaller, but this here would be so effective for you to start pushing out this content and using your presentations, because now people start to see value in who. Look at the next one. The next one is, when we talk about pricing, look at prices. So somebody goes, oh, is it a good time to buy? Well, listen, 2008, the average house in Toronto was worth 380. 2017 would be a 10-year period. That was 823. So over a 10-year period, prices more than double. Now, here's what's interesting. In 2018, our average price was at 796 at the end of September. But the question was it higher or lower than the end of August? Remember, we had 3.1 months of inventory. Do you remember that number? And 3.1 months of inventory is at a seller or a buyer's market. It's a seller's market, which means prices were higher at the end of September than they were at the end of August. And everybody tells me how bad the market is, but prices are still going up. See, I find that interesting because this is like, now, okay, if you own a $4 million home, is that going down in price in Toronto? Sure it is. But which way are condos going? Up. Which way are, properties are worth $2 million or less? Up. So if you look at it, average price is still rising. Yes, there's certain segments that are lowering, but average price is still rising. Does the consumer know that? Probably not. Let's look at the next one, which is a really interesting chart. So here's your sales. So let's look at this. Look at 2017, right? You can see 2017, your gray bar graph in January, and then sales went way up in February, way up in March, right? Came down a little bit in April. Why? What went on in February? Foreign buyer tax. Then what happened? Sales down, 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 down. Foreign buyer tax, DC went in there. So our sales started to drop off. But here's what's interesting. If you look at January of 18, the red bar is less than the gray. We did less deals in January in 2018 than 17. We did less deals in February. We did less deals in March, right? We did less deals in April. We did less deals in May. And then what happened? June, July, August, September, we did more sales. June, July, August, September in 18 than we did in 17. Do most people think that? No. Most people don't think that, right? They think, oh, the market's, off, because that's what the papers would tell you. See, these are insights. See, the public today, I say we're in a society that's information rich, but insight poor. And when they see this sort of stuff, now they start to believe in you. They're going, wow, thank you so much for this. But what about micro markets? So what is a micro market? Well, a micro market is could be condos, okay? A micro market could be semi-detached. So here's your months of inventory in different markets. And there's two types of micro markets. The first is what I call property type, detached, semi, townhouse, condo. The second is a geographical area. I'm giving you the numbers for the whole board, but you need to be breaking it down for the geographical area that you work. So if you look at this, we've got 4.2 months of inventory in detached. That's all detached of all prices in 416 and 905, which is a big geographical area. Now, if I looked at a micro market like, say, detached over $2 million, what would I find? More or less inventory? I'd find a lot more. I'd probably find 6 to 7 months of inventory. Do you see the difference, everybody? But you got to look at your numbers. Semi, we got 1.9, townhouse 2.3, condo 2.1. Semi, townhouse, and condo are all sellers market where prices are still rising. So I look at it and say, well, then who should be buying in this market? If these numbers, okay, if I was an agent working in this market, who should be buying? Condo people that want to move up to detached. Because some detached, the prices are weakening or stable. Condo markets are still going up. So your delta changes. So, your condo prices have gone up. detach and remain the same or come down, because 4.2 is a balanced market, which means the delta between the two is getting smaller. I'd be all over condo owners right now and say, what a time to be moving up, right? That's a segment of the market that you could be talking to, that you got to get out and you got to start to work with. And that's the importance of these numbers. You can communicate. So the deal is this: you got to create what I call the value gap. And the value gap is the difference between what they know and what they don't know. Now, they think they know everything, but they don't know everything. They know just enough to be dangerous. And I say that respectfully, of course. But every time you tell them something they didn't know. So imagine having a conversation like this. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you know how many months of inventory we need to have a balanced market? Do you know the answer to that? No, they don't have a clue, right? Do they have a clue the last 4 months of sales in 2018 were better in 2017? Most buyers wouldn't say that. Most buyers would go, oh, we can't be buying right now. No, 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 no. Bad time to buy. Rates going up, prices going down. Rates going up, prices going down. Why do we want to buy right now? That's what they're thinking. But I'm telling you, you want to buy a condo right now, if rates are going up and will probably continue to go up, and if condos are going up in price, when should you be buying? Now, right? Now. Do you see? So we have to be able to communicate something to them where they go, wow, I didn't know that. Because at the end of the day, here's what sales is. Sales is influence, and it is your ability to influence another human being to assist them in making a decision that is in their best interest. That's your job. And unless you know a lot more than them, you're going to have a tough time doing that, right? And then they won't see value. You know, it's like mortgage rates. Look at 5-year rate. Look at 5-year history of mortgage rates. Everybody goes, mortgage rates are high. Are mortgage rates high? Yeah, they're higher than they were in the last 18 months, but historically, they're still at historic low levels. And if you want to have fun, pull this off the internet for the last 25 years and show them what rates were in 1982 when they're at 17 to 20%. So everybody thinks rates are higher. And I'm going, rates are higher than the last 18 months, but they're still historically low in the last 5 years. It's just we've got to readjust, right? So as I said, the challenge is we're in this area right now where there's all kinds of information. People go on the internet. We're information rich, but we're insight poor. We don't have a clue what the information means. So your job is to provide insights, not just information. And that's what I'm talking about here. I've got some other ideas. This is done for you marketing that we provide as a company. You can see at the top, they're one sheets. There's 8.5 by 11. You can send them digitally. You can print them out, take them to open houses, use them door knocking, whatever. But, just should I buy or should I sell first? Great, insightful. Okay. 5 reasons you should choose to work with a real estate agent when buying a house, pricing your home right. And then the bottom, these are just the roadmap to selling your home. And these are both about 18 to 20 page booklets, 7 steps home buyer success Canadians need to know. We're a Canadian company, so all of our content is Canadian. Imagine if you posted this up on your website, some of this stuff. They go to the website, they want to download it. You can capture their email address, because that's what internet companies are doing to get leads, right? Or you're working with a lead, you can start pushing out this type of content for them to show them your value, little things like that. So at the end of the day, and I'm going to move on to number 2 here, but marketing is sort of a really big one that I'm hoping everybody will consider mastering. And there's so many other ways to get people's attention. I'm just sort of giving you one. I call it real estate intelligence. Is that what you don't want to do is, as the market has shifted, which it's shifted really. If I look at Canada, Vancouver's, it's shifted a lot. Vancouver has moved fully into a buyer's market right now. You go to Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, those provinces, they balance between a balanced market and move towards a buyer's market. You look at Ontario, and Ontario's starting to move toward more of a balanced market, right? Depending on the property type. Then you start moving east of here. Ottawa is probably the busiest market in Canada right now. Montreal's doing better. Halifax is doing better. New Brunswick's doing a little bit better. But overall, we're starting to see shifts because of government intervention. And I think we're going to continue to see that, which means, it's not time for us to sit back and keep doing what we're doing before. It's time for us to turn it up, right? To produce better content, to get out there, talk to more people, to make sure that we have these insights when we're having a conversation, we can demonstrate our value. And I find when market shifts, a lot of people, they start standing around the water cooler talking about how bad the market is. And I always say this: don't raise your voice, improve your argument. You know what I mean? Don't raise your voice. Don't get upset. Don't get frustrated. because we can't change that. There's no sense, drama over market changes or, listening to people complaining about what's going on. No, we need to improve our argument. We need to accept responsibility so we can take our businesses to a whole new level. Okay, so one is marketing. Number two, I'm going to get into is relationships.
Let me ask, Richard, can I ask you one thing? I have, because there's a comment made in the chat, and I thought it kind of relates to what you just said. So just before you get to number two, and I know we're at like 2:35, so we don't have too much time, but Cynthia was saying, she kind of just commented, rates are still reasonably low. The prices are higher than 10 years ago. Therefore, buyers cannot afford monthly payments. And this really speaks to your last comment about, don't raise your voice, have better statements, right? What was don't raise your voice, improve your argument. Thank you, Dana. So, I was watching everything you were saying, and your audience here is realtors. But let's say a realtor was to do this stuff on their own Facebook, because I could see a realtor saying, I want to show this stuff, but I'm worried that I'm going to scare away a seller because they're going to go, oh, the market's the market's softening, so I should wait. Or I'm going to scare away a buyer because they're going to go, oh, the market's getting really hot. I don't want to. Or like the detached. I want to buy a detached. Well, I should wait because the market. You're telling me the market's going to come down. So how can I
depending on price range?
Yeah. So how would you say, how do you get past that fear of like alienating somebody and saying, oh well, having them come back and say, the rates are low, but the prices are so high that I can't afford it for the buyer.
Okay. So first of all, when you tell the truth, you're only going to alienate the people you should be alienating. Right? So there are certain, right now, here's the deal. If everybody wants to be vanilla and they're so afraid, to go out and take a position on something. But when you're being vanilla and you won't take a position on something, nobody knows whether they should choose you or not. When you take a stand for something, so in other words, a great time to be moving from a condo to a detached, and it is a great time to do that. A great time to take advantage of low rates, because probably the only way they're going to go up next year, or the only way they're going to go next year, is up. You're going to attract the people that should be buying or should be selling. And believe it or not, there's some people right now that shouldn't be buying, and there's some people that shouldn't be selling. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you've got to decide that I'm okay with taking a position. I'm okay with having an opinion. Most people are so bloody afraid to have an opinion. They're just vanilla and nobody knows whether to choose them or not, right?
And that's why I think I was asking that question, because, I'd ask like real quick before we move on, what do you mean vanilla? Because I get it. But
vanilla means I can't become colorful. Vanilla is like, oh yeah, you're right in the middle, right? I really got no opinion, and people don't know what I think. But become strawberry or chocolate, you know what I mean? Stand out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And when I start producing this content as an example, do I get some negative feedback? 100%, right? Like obviously I do a fair amount on social media, and we've got a fairly large audience, and I look at it, and I'm pretty opinionated because I believe very strongly in what I'm saying. Like I'm not telling you something I don't believe, but because of that, some people are going to say, I choose not to work with that guy. Right? And other people are going to say, hey, that's exactly the guy I want to work with. But at least they know. So think about this, because was it Teresa said that?
Cynthia.
So think about this. So if interest rates are going up, it is making homes unaffordable for some people. And should everybody be buying a house? Not necessarily, based on their situation. The other thing are we going to see as mortgages come due that didn't get involved in the stress testing, is it going to put financial pressure on some people? 100%. Like there's no question this is going to happen. Are we going to see a rise in power of sales? 100%. Are we going to see some agents lose the business, get out of the business because they didn't change their ways? 100%. Yep. Right? But at the end of the day, there's still roughly this year 80,000 people in Toronto that are going to buy and sell real estate, which is 160,000 ends, right? And obviously the good agents will rise and be able to take advantage of that. So is it creating some difficulty for people? Yes. You know what I mean? And so in other words, if rates are going up and somebody might have to qualify for $50,000 less or $100,000 less than they qualified for before, well, that's their choice. Now they got to move further one way, to be able to buy, or maybe they're buying a condo instead of a detached, or maybe it's not time for them to buy. That's all okay.
Yeah. And yeah, that thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that, because that was, and I think that's something that, as having gone to so many offices, some people get super scared of. I don't want to alienate anybody, and like I said, then you just be vanilla.
Yeah, I don't know if you're trying to alienate people, if you're just trying to tell them the truth. Cool. Because if somebody decides it's not the right time for them to buy, and I help them with that decision, I'm excited about that too, right? Like, if I walk in and I sit down and have a conversation with somebody, and we come to the conclusion this isn't a good time for them to be selling or buying, I'd tell them that. I'd say, listen, it's not about the deal. It's about what's the right thing for that consumer to be doing at this point in time in the marketplace.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Point 2.
Okay. So relationships is number 2. Now, this one's interesting because, and you might go, this is like crazy simple, but it's actually not. Because I'm going to say for about 3 years, a lot of people I know have been telling me that, Rich, it's not much about relationships anymore. It's now more about this whole online lead gen. And for a while, I actually started to believe them. And then I started to study it, and I said, no, it's more about relationships than ever before. Because here's what's happening. The average consumer, the average buyer today, is taking about 8 months thinking and dreaming of buying a house. So they're not connecting with an agent yet, but they're like going online, they're seeing what's for sale, they're driving by homes, that sort of thing. And then what they're doing is spending 12 weeks engaged in the process. But here's what's interesting. The whole 8 months, they haven't contacted an agent. They're talking to their mom and dad and their relatives and their friends and all that. And do you think any of those people recommend an agent? And the answer is yes. And not only the millennial generation, they don't want you cold calling. They want to find their agents through a referral, because the number one thing they're looking for is somebody they can trust. That's just the millennial generation. So what I've also found, if you study it, is that the millennial generation, 50% of them are finding their real agents through a referral. 50%, which is the highest in any generation in history. Any generation in history. So I find this interesting. And then if you think about it logically, if Zillow or any other online lead gen company is trying to turn, say, your past clients into somebody else's past clients, wouldn't it make sense that relationships are more important than ever before in history? So we teach something called the LRS, the Lifetime Referral System. And that system has now become more important than ever before, because now we got to keep bringing value to the people that we know. So when they're thinking of buying or know somebody's thinking of buying, they're going to refer us. And a lot of the content I talked about in the first part, you can start sending out to these people. And there's one agent, her name is Fiona. And she's been in a market that's been weakened this year, but just from repeat and referral from following our system. She did 22 transactions last year. And at the end of August, by the way, this number was the end of August, she had done 25 transactions this year in a weaker market, repeat referral, because she got the message that I got to spend more time talking to, bringing value to, sending newsletters to, having client appreciation parties, right? Visiting with all of the people that I already know, because referrals are more important than ever before. And Scott Stratton, who's a speaker, he's a buddy of mine, but he said, if business is about relationships, make relationships your business. So just keep that in mind for 2019, but you've got to start reaching out more to the people you already know, bringing value to them on a regular basis, okay? Whether it's e-newsletters, regular mail newsletters, whatever it happens to be. Okay, and then the last one is called mindset. And then what we'll do is we'll open this up for questions. And this one's probably, obviously, marketing is tactical, relationships is tactical, or you might call strategic. Mindset is mental. And if you look at real estate agents, what I find is they move through 4 stages in their career. And I want to show you the 4 different phases of a real estate agent. And I'm hoping you want to get to the last one. And the first one is called the honeymoon phase. And the honeymoon phase is where agents are really excited. They're extremely unskilled, generally speaking. They work long hours. They love the buzz of it all. They're brand new to the business. They got tons and tons of energy, and they go out into the world and they just make it happen through energy, right? Just basically through energy. And then they quite often move to the second phase, which is called treadmill. And treadmill is where they get to this second stage. And this is where, they're still relatively unskilled. And what they've discovered is because they still don't have the skills and they still don't have the systems in place, that the only way they can do more is to run faster, because they got to keep doing more of what they've already been doing. They're not becoming more productive. They're not producing bigger results in shorter periods of time because weak systems, weak sales skills, right? They don't have a lot of skills in terms of presentations, as an example, and they just start working harder and running faster. And that can work for a little while until you get to the next stage, which is called crossroads. And crossroads is where all of a sudden everything starts to change. And this is where stuff starts to fall between the cracks. This is where we get tired. And this is where we start thinking to ourselves, well, boy, should I stay in real estate? Shouldn't I stay in real estate? And we start thinking about maybe doing something else. And we start feel a little trapped in the business. We feel a little lost. You know what I mean? We get to January and we're sort of a little nervous about the new year again. And the reason being is because we're now very uncertain. We probably have financial challenges. Our business is good for a few months, then we go into a slump. We go into a roll. We go into a slump. And we're up and down all of the time. And we're going to work because we have to, not because we want to. And this is not a fun place to be. Now, most people don't leave. Some people leave the industry. Most people don't. They just stay there stuck, and they go back and forth between treadmill, crossroads, treadmill, crossroads, treadmill. So our organization is all about teaching people to get to the fourth level, which is where you own a business. And when you get to being what we call a business owner, this gets very, very, very exciting. Because when you get to be a business owner, what happens is you're focused on growth. You want to grow your business every single year. You have this excitement, okay? You've created systems. Your business isn't people dependent. Your business is system dependent. You know exactly how to generate leads. You know what lead generating strategies you have in place, and you know what results they produce. You know exactly how to qualify a lead. You know exactly how to convert a lead into an appointment. You've got a very organized listing and buyer presentation, and plus probably pre-list and pre-buy packages that go out in advance. You know how to close, you know how to handle objections. Sometimes you might even get an assistant at this point, and you start to give away the $20 an hour task so that you can go out and do the $100, $125 task, because if you don't have an assistant, you probably are one. And of course, these people here are always learning, because these people, when you're in the business owner phase, they understand that what they know has gotten them where they are. But they're always asking themselves, what do I need to learn to get where I want to go? Now, I'm preaching a little bit to the choir here because you're on a training seminar right now, right? Which is wonderful. I commend you for that. But look at the 4 different phases. And I say to everybody, as you're moving into the rest of 18 and 19, like, identify where are you right now? And then think about, where do you want to get to? Where do you want to get to? So, if you're in the treadmill, you want to get to be a business owner. Crossroads, you want to be a business owner. Honeymoon, you want. And a business owner thinks differently. They don't think about revenue. They think about profit, right? I just did a seminar for all of our coaching clients earlier today, and that's what it was all about: creating a business plan for 2019 and exactly how profitable you want to be, and creating a budget for everything you're going to do. That's what business owners do. Because business owners know how to produce a result. There's no uncertainty anymore. There's no fear. And they always want to try to produce a little better result in the future than they did in their past. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there. I was going to go into something else, but we got 10 minutes. So there might be some questions, some things that maybe we can discuss. But I'm going to leave it there. And the last thing I want to do is just talk to you if there's anything that I've said that makes sense. And if you're even thinking about possibly hiring a coach, I'd love for you to talk to us, right? Totally up to you. So, because that's what we do as an organization. We're business coaches. So what I'm going to do is put up on the slide how you can contact us if you're interested in maybe moving to a new level in 2019. You can email us, you can call us, whatever you want to do. We're very glad just to have a conversation with you, help you understand our process, find out where you are now, find out where you want to go, and maybe there's a match there. Okay, Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you, buddy. That leaves some time because I usually go right to the last minute. I leave no time for questions.
And then I feel bad because I take over your time. So
that's okay, buddy.
I'm going to leave this screen up for a little bit, just so anybody can note it. And I will remind people that in our LP network, you can find the links. And if you go to richardrobbins.com, you can find the links for complimentary coaching as well, and to try that out. So one of the questions I have, and you know what, I'm gonna try. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ask the question, and then I'm gonna try to answer it. I think based on what you said, and you can just tell me how I did, because I'm taking your coaching now. So, Laval Free Home. This is somebody from out in Laval, Montreal. He's saying, "What's the best way to get referrals when you have no transactions yet?" And so I'm going to try to answer this, Rich, because I think what you spoke to in that first section and in number one about, you know, really being the person who is helping people with their real estate intelligence is understand that. To me, when I was reading that, I thought, you know, there's the transaction, that's great, but the referral can also come from, hey, this person really helped me understand the market, what's going on. You should talk to this person. Because that was my thought is, you know, maybe understand that a transaction is really important and to get that. But if you don't have any transactions, the best thing you can do is help people understand the market, and they'll go, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. They really know what's going on. And somebody will say, hey, I don't know if I can afford a house. And they'll say, hey, you know what? You should go talk to this guy because he seems to really know what he's talking about. How'd I do?
Yeah, no, you did great. I totally agree. I think that's one way. I think I'd start, you know, again, create and push out great content, maybe create some videos you put up on social media. You can send out your database. The other thing I'd say is if you haven't done a deal, you need to be talking to everybody you know. So here's an example. When back when I was selling real estate, I walked into dry cleaners one day and I was handing the guy some clothes. And I you know, prospect everybody. And I just said to him, I said, hey, I'm curious. I said, I'm in here all the time. But I said, if you knew of somebody thinking of buying or selling real estate, I said, who would you recommend? And he goes, oh, geez, I don't know. He said, I know lots of agents come in here, but nobody's asked me that question before. I said, would you recommend me? He said, sure, I'll do that. I said, great, thanks, man. And then I, you know, put him on my list, right? I had newsletters go out every month and stayed in touch, all that sort of thing. Well, I went away on a holiday. I came back and I had a voicemail back from the good old voicemail a long time ago, and that was the main source of getting a message to somebody. And then he said, hey, Rich, give me a call. I got one for you. And I'll never forget that. And so talking to every single person you know, you can go to our website, you can download the free resources or scripts there. You can download those scripts and use our lifetime referral script to start phoning everybody you know and asking for referrals. We got to do that. We got to reach out to people, right? Like prospecting is a contact sport, whether you like it or not. So I'd spend half my time reaching out, half my time marketing.
So close.
No, you did great. No, it was great because it is. If you push out great content, people are going to start to ask you questions. Like people will start saying, is it a good time to buy? Or they'll disagree with you on stuff, which is great. Now you created a conversation, right?
Yeah, now you understand them more, which means you can understand how to serve them.
Right.
Next question I got, how would you handle a potential client? And this is one, you know, when you talked about those downward pressures, right? A potential client who's being offered to cut in commissions from one of your colleagues. And that's coming from Cynthia Canini, who, you know, I really appreciate, has been really active in the chat, which I love. She's from Royal LePage RCR out in Bolton. So what do you do when you have one of your colleagues who are willing to cut their commission?
Well, I think what's going to happen, you're always going to have people that are going to compete on price. So you decide, right? Like as a company, we don't compete on price. Like RI does not compete on price. Like we just don't. We don't discount. Like, you know, somebody phones up and says, oh, I want you to, you know, your ticket price $100, your coach. We don't do that. Every one of our coaching clients are paying the same. So the whole thought process, decide, number one, are you going to compete on price? You're going to compete on value, because there's always people who compete on price. If you compete on value, then you got to be able to communicate your value. So I would say something like this. I'm sitting down, let's say I'm with a potential seller, and they say, well, the other agent, Mike, said he'd do it for 1% less. And I'd say, I can appreciate that, right? Commission's flexible. People can charge whatever they want. Then I would say something like this. Now, I assume this home is your most valuable asset. Is that correct? And they'll say, yes. And I would say, now, if you're going to sell your most valuable asset, I'm assuming what you also want to get is the best qualified person for the job. Does that make sense? And chances are they go, well, yeah, we want to get somebody really, really good. I said, well, great. I said, well, when Mike was over, did he happen to share some numbers with you? The percentage of list price that he's negotiating for his sellers, the number of days it's taken for him to get his home sold, how many listings he actually sold last year, and what percentage of the listings that he's taken are actually selling. And 99% of the time, you know what the answer to that question is? No. Because most people don't share that. So then you say, because I can offer you any commission, but if your listing doesn't sell, you actually don't pay anything, do you? Right? And what some people try to do is they just make it strictly on price. But I've got some information here from Market Watch, and Cynthia could use Market Watch because if she's with our, she might be in Ottawa or she might be in Bolton area. But say Market Watch shows that the average house right now is selling for 98%, or 90, I should say 97% of list price. I think most of the averages now is 96 to 97. And actually, I'm selling my listings for 98.5 or 99 or whatever the number is, which means I'm actually selling my listings for 1.5 to 2 points higher than the market average. So actually, by working with me, believe it or not, you're actually going to net more in your pocket. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, by the way, if an agent walks in your home and they can't negotiate their commission, you really want them negotiating your most valuable asset. So now that's just one idea, Mike. Like, obviously, you've got to be able to show them your marketing plan and the amount of money you're spending, because anybody can list a home on MLS.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean it's getting exposed all over the world.
Yeah.
The potential Chinese buyers. So there's a whole other play in marketing side, but that's where you bring your skill in and you help them see what they don't see so they can make a better decision.
And you touched on another point. That's one thing. I was talking with some agents last week, and I was telling them about my father-in-law when he went to sell his place. He had an agent, and they said, "Oh, we're going to market it," and he's out in Chatham, and we're going to market it in Kitchener, we're going to market it in London, we're going to market it in Windsor. And so I talked to my father-in-law, and he said, "Yeah, this is what he said he's doing." I said, "Great. How's he going to do that?" I said, "Go back to him, ask him. I want to know, what is he going to do in those markets?" And the guy said, "Oh, I'm going to take out a newspaper ad." And so he went to the Royal LePage agent and said, "Hey, what are you going to do?" And the Royal LePage agent, like you said, gave him the intelligence. "Hey, the misconception is that all these foreign buyers are coming in and buying. Here's the stats on the number of homes being sold in Chatham. And yes, we will market it. We're going to talk to, we shared our listings with our agent or with our brokerages out in those areas and gave them a concise, a concrete answer, not something that's you made up." So,
yeah. 100%.
I got a quick question on creating the graphs and everything that you guys have done. When you're creating these graphs from the TREB data and all the data that you use, are you just creating them yourself, or is there some system that you guys use to create these visuals? And that's coming from Desiree. She's out in BC, so I think she's thinking she wants to do these graphs and do this stuff herself. What do you guys use to create them?
I just have a graphic designer, but you can take my graph, like what I've done visually here, and basically take the same thing and just plug your numbers into it, right? So the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board, they have all the numbers and they're really easy to get, and just plug, use the same thing. You don't have to change it, right? I
was thinking you could create, and go into Excel or Google Sheets or something. You can pull up an infograph like that, make it visual.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's see. I'll give it another second to see if there's any questions. I'm going to bring back up the contact details for Richard Robbins. Again, we get so many questions from these webinars, and they do complimentary coaching in the same respect of everything that Rich talked about today. Is they know that they can give you good value in there. And I definitely recommend, if you want, check it out. It's the contact details are right here. As I mentioned, I shared the link, by the way, to your Facebook page. So, facebook.com/official Richard Robbins. People can go check that out and see, again, how you do this and how you communicate. And what I will say, I always love reading the comments off of that, because that's what I find. The video, all that stuff is neat, but reading the comments and seeing how people interpret that data, to me, makes me understand them even better. And then I'm just going to bring up here real quickly on my end. I just want to bring up that people can check out on our side. Let me share my screen real quick here. Is people can check out in RLP Network under the training section, under webinar training. They can see all of the past webinars that we've done. So if people want to go check out those past webinars, just check it out in RLP Network. And one question I have to wrap this up is, if somebody is part of your coaching program or stuff like that, do they have access? Do you guys provide them with kind of graphs or stats like this?
No, we provide them with some of the content I showed you. Remember the one sheets there? So they have access to all of that. We have, well, I shouldn't say no, because we have hundreds and hundreds of templates that people can use for different marketing purposes, but we don't provide the specific numbers for each market.
Because they can go get them.
Yeah, well, not only that, it would be, imagine going to every single market in North America, or even Canada. It'd be virtually impossible for us to do that.
And you also, it's not even just North America, you also work out in Europe and all.
Yeah.
You get a lot of people.
Yeah. So, yeah, but we have the templates. People can take the templates of the graphs and use them 100% and just put their own numbers in.
Yeah, and you know what I'll say? Don't even worry about the visual is not as important as what you're saying and what you're doing to put it out there.
Yeah, no question.
That's what's really important. So you mentioned also there were free scripts and stuff. People can find that if you go to richardrobbins.com. You can find that stuff there. Go check that out. Somebody's already answering on his website. And I'm going to wrap it up with Linda Bowers, who is saying, great reminders, a shot of confidence. She's going to go take a call to list a property. So she just wanted to say thanks. Great way to wrap up the webinar. Well, cheers. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. And we'll see you guys on the next webinar.